Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 46 of the Audible Farm podcast. This episode is brought to you by Couchtown Coffee. Couchtown Coffee is located right here in Iowa. They hand select the beans. They roast them exactly how you want them. If you wanted a little bit lighter roast, you let them know, and they'll do it. It's every batch that is roasted specifically for who it is roasted for. I know that sounds kind of insane, but it's very true. If you want coffee and you go to www.couchtowncoffee.com and you go to the Our Coffees links, and there's a tab at the top there, and if you click on that and then you go and see what kind of coffee you like, you shoot them an email and you say, hey, I want some of your coffee. Can you roast it a little bit lighter? I like my roast lighter. They're going to roast it lighter for you. It's not a problem. It's not an issue. Their coffee is handmade for the person that it's made for. It's not like they're roasting 500 pounds of coffee and then just like hoping everybody buys it. This is roasted to order. So like when you send an order in and you say, I want some coffee, Andrew at Couchtown Coffee says, okay, this person wants coffee, and he makes your coffee for you with his own hands. He's got a roaster machine now finally, and that thing is awesome. It roasts the beans so well. It's going to be the freshest coffee you have. I guarantee it. So go to www.couchtowncoffee.com. Check out the coffee they have there. And because you and I are listening to the same podcast, well, I guess I'm on the podcast, but since we have joined forces, Audible Farm and Couchtown Coffee, we have brought to you promo code. And the promo code this week is going to save you 20% on your order. And this promo code is only going to be good for this week, so make sure you check it out. It's going to be good from August 1st through August 7th. August 1st through August 7th is going to be how long it's good for. So make sure you check out couchtowncoffee.com. You enter the promo code SCHOOLS OUT. That's going to save you 20% on your order. No matter how much you order, it's going to save you 20%. Schools Out. That's the promo code. And why is the promo code Schools Out? It's because my buddy Vince and I went to go see Glen Buxton's gravesite in Clarion, Iowa, and it was kind of a trip. It's a fun podcast too, because you get to hear us talk on the way there and on the way back, because we recorded it in the car. So there will be a little bit of road noise here and there, as well as us kind of guffawing about a few things that we see on our drive there. But it was an awesome time. I interviewed Vince a while back. I believe it was episode number 24. I'm going to double check that real quick. It was episode number 24. So if you dig on Vince here, you want to listen to some more of what Vince has got to say, I did another episode with him about half a year ago. So check that one out. Thanks to Vince for joining me on the podcast, and thanks to Couchtown Coffee for sponsoring this episode. And here we go. Let's do it.
It's the Audible Farm Podcast with your host, Peter Stockdale.
Okay, so today I'm sitting down with Vince, and we're taking a car ride. We're gonna go over to
car ride to Clarion.
We're gonna go to Clarion, and we're gonna go see Glen Buxton's grave. For people that don't know, Glen Buxton played guitar for Alice Cooper, probably on most of the songs that everybody knows. School's Out, 18.
Yep. $1 billion Babies.
$1 billion Babies. That was him playing the guitar. And after it was like somewhere in the 70s, Glen ended up leaving the band for whatever reason. The internet has speculations on that. And he ended up leaving and moving to Clarion. And somebody told me a while back once that he had lived there. And I was like, what? So I looked it up on the internet. And sure enough, he lived there. One of the first podcasts I ever did, actually, a guy sent me a message and was just like, hey, you got to check this out. And he sent me a video of Glen Buxton playing a show in Clarion somewhere. So I do have that somewhere. Somebody had sent that to me. But that's a pretty cool thing. Yeah, like I didn't know Glen Buxton, like A, lived in Clarion, or B, played guitar still, or like C, was like available to go see.
Well, I had no idea until you told me maybe a couple weeks ago or whatever, week or two. went to see Jay Clyde Band, and we were talking about that, and I was like, no way, because you kind of asked me, hey, you know who Glen Buxton is? I'm like, well, hell yeah, I know who Glen Buxton is.
Yeah.
Like, I grew up, like, when I want to say, like, early teens, I was big into Alice Cooper, and so, yeah, I knew who he was, and you said that, and I'm like, dude, we're definitely going to see his grave.
Yeah, no kidding. I had discussed this like a while back with Sean Sean Oakes. I did a podcast with him. It's like the number 10. I don't know without looking, but yeah, like we had talked about it a little bit, and he ended up going up and seeing the grave last year, and so I'm gonna go up this year and check it out, I guess, because I don't know, it's just one of those cool things. You never think about how many like famous people live around here, or like the good musicians around here are pretty insurmountable, but like there's a guy that probably toured the world, and he lived in Clarion for like 10 years and played music like all around northern Iowa, Minnesota, like northeastern Iowa and such.
Yeah, like a huge dude like that playing locally around here, kind of cool to know. You know, almost, it really makes me wish I could have been around back then to like just hang out around the local scene, because local music is probably, I'd almost rather go to see local musicians play than somebody big or something that I know of.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like, for example, when you and I went and saw Jay Clyde Band, like about a week or so ago, we saw him in, what was it, Lake City?
Yep. Lakeview.
Was it Lakeview?
Yep.
I think I screwed that up on the last podcast. But yeah, so we go see me like, what is it, Lakeview? Oh yeah, because Lake City doesn't have a lake. I discussed that in the last podcast. No, okay, so we're at Lakeview, and yeah, it was like their water carnival or something, and Jay Clyde Band just tore it up. There were like fireworks and stuff going off behind them. I was making jokes about how they got their own pyro team now, and you know, like they'd cover stuff like oh gosh, now I'm going to draw a huge blank. Like Tom Petty stuff, and I think I heard an Aerosmith song in there.
Yep.
Dude, it's so cool to hear those songs come out of people that like and to have them done that well, etc.
Well, and it was done really well too, and it was a pretty good variety of stuff too. Like they played a little bit of country stuff and like older stuff and newer stuff. So it was nice.
Yeah, dude.
So
you know, it's just one of those cool things to actually get out and go to a show and check those things out. And you and I have been trying to hit up as many shows as we can with our like busy schedules and stuff. You're like currently working in the northern Iowa area, so I was just, every chance I get, I'm just like, hey,
hitting me up. I do appreciate that too. That's fun. I like to get out and I like to see the music, man. It's always fun.
Yeah, I mean, it sucks that there's like a shortage of jam nights now, but we still, you and I should probably still try to make a Barnum jam night.
Yeah, for sure,
before
man.
You take off.
And that's one thing I've wanted to do lately. I haven't gotten the chance to play with many people lately, or anybody at all recently. Mm-hmm. So that'd be pretty fun.
Yeah, I mean, I saw on your Snapchat you've been busting out like tons and tons of different tunes, though. So
yeah, for sure, man. I've been working at it, and it's all fun. And you know, I'd like to play a little bit more than I have been recently in the last couple weeks, but at the same time, I'm doing good with it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I mean, heck, I wish I could play more too. Like, I do have to admit that this summer I've been a little bit of lackadaisical, maybe lazy or whatever the word would be, but I've definitely spent a lot of time being pretty lethargic when I should be playing the guitar. That Unity show that's coming up on August 8th was a show for sure that I was just like, oh god, I need to brush up on my chops for this. So I spent the last like 2 weeks just really grinding out on that Unity material, and it's starting to sharpen that thing up to a fine point again. It's kind of a crazy thing. Like, I don't know, music's not quite like riding a bike, man. If you just walk away from it for a while, it doesn't go away, but it doesn't exactly stick either.
Yeah, like you'll be sitting there and you'll be like, man, I know how to play this song, but I can't remember this part. Mm-hmm. And then you'll start fiddling with it a little bit, and then you finally figure it out. You're like, oh, okay, type deal. So in a sense, yeah, it's almost like riding a bike, but not really. Mm-hmm. Because like you still have to, if you don't remember a certain thing like that, it doesn't just come to you. You got to fiddle with it a little bit and really try to figure it out.
Yeah,
you know?
That's one of the benefits of like knowing what key songs are in and things like that. You can kind of guess your way through things a little bit better if you have to, or fudge your way through it if you don't remember the chords and stuff. You can always just play a lead line or something like that.
Yeah, well, and like that's one thing too, is when I figured out like you know, how like chord progressions kind of work, or like, you know, what key you're in.
Yeah.
It made playing music or playing guitar anyway, so much easier.
Oh yeah.
It blew me away almost, because like now I can just we're playing a blues riff in G or something like that. Oh,
Yep.
that's easy. I'm gonna jump right in.
Yeah. It's one of those crazy things. Like, that was what I was most nervous about going to jam nights, especially, was like when I first learned how to do that, which was like somebody says it's in this key or whatever, you can figure out what chords you need to hit or how you need to solo over top of it. When I first started figuring that stuff out, I was kind of blown away that I could figure it out, first off, but then secondly, it was just like, man, I can apply this stuff in my basement or wherever I'm practicing. But as for going to a jam night and applying it at a jam night in front of a bunch of people with a song I've never heard before, it's a little bit more experimental and not quite as easy. So I was always super nervous about going to jam nights and playing and doing stuff like that at shows like that.
Well, and that's one thing too, is I'll be playing, and especially if you're the only guitarist and you go to like try to rip something out. When I just started figuring out like how to really get into soloing a while back here, a couple months ago, and I'd like to say I've been doing good with it. Like, everything I play, I feel like sounds good.
Yep.
So I'm really liking that.
Yep.
But like, when you're the only guitar playing, you're kind of like super nervous about it. You're like, oh shit, everybody can hear me.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, I can't like hide something anymore.
Yep.
Like, there's not another guitar with me. Like,
oh yeah.
Like I have to do this right, type of deal.
Yep.
But and to a point, you almost can't be afraid of messing up, because a lot of the times people are gonna be like, oh, if you just keep going like nothing happened, like nobody's really gonna realize it.
Yeah, and the people that do realize it will think to themselves like, nice recovery, or something like that.
Yep.
I mean, I've done that at shows too, where I hear people that are like maybe beginners or even like experienced people that occasionally will bust out some wrong notes here and there. It does happen, but you know what? I'm always so impressed by literally everyone's style. Like, when I first started learning how to play the guitar, I would let's learn like this little blues lick or that little blues lick, or learn a couple patterns up and down the pentatonic scale here and there. And then one of my buddies, Dan Blair, would also learn a handful of riffs and things like that. And we'd like come together every couple of nights or whatever and be like, hey, what'd you learn? I learned this. Hey, what'd you learn? I learned that. And then we'd kind of trade riffs to each other, because it's kind of easier to learn them if you're sitting down in the same room with somebody.
Yep.
But it's also kind of cool to see like what riffs people take to learning. And then once you learn handfuls of riffs and you throw them in your repertoire, you end up having your own special style of playing. And like, as far as everybody's style of playing, everybody's is going to be different. And I definitely enjoy that, depending on like where you go, because some people like to play fast and some people like to play less notes but make it more emphatic of their emotions and things like that. And
well, that's one thing about it too, is like everybody's playing style is almost like their personality thrown into guitar playing, which is super cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's really neat. It's like they're like painting with sound or something. It's a really cool thing. I mean, like we were talking, going to shows and stuff like that. That's probably one of my favorite parts about going to shows, because it's like when I see when I see like J. Clyde Band go and they're going to play whatever song and the solo is not the exact same as whoever recorded it on the record, I don't care, because this is their guys' style with like their flavors of stuff thrown in. One thing I used to like to tell people was like, it's kind of like pizza. Like, imagine you're like, what pizza do you eat the most? Whether or not it's from a restaurant or frozen and stuff like that. Like, you just kind of get tired of it, even though it's your Old Faithful. And then somebody's just like, well, check out this pizza. And you're like, holy crap, this pizza's good. But all pizza is literally just like crust, sauce, and cheese.
Yep.
So it's all the same
a little
ingredients.
bit different.
Just the tiniest little bits of different ingredients sourced from different locations make it that much more special, And that's one of the things I really, really dig about going and checking out the live music scene. You and I have actually, like, we went to the Brutal Republic show in Clarion.
Yeah, that was kick-ass, man.
Probably about 3-4 weeks ago. That was a really good show. I have yet to see Brutal Republic as a three-piece. I'd seen Jeremy's solo a handful of times. And, I mean, I've seen Jeremy and Alejandro Trevino play at jam nights and things like that before, but I'd never seen Brutal. And that's, like, one of the coolest things is to go to those shows and hear people just be like, dude, these guys are good. And it's like... Yeah.
Like they kicked, like, that was when I first actually come back up to Northern Iowa. Too, is like my first day. I was literally on my way. I'm like, hey, like this band's playing here, and you're like, oh well, this band Brutal Republic's in Clarion. Like, you want to go to that? I'm like, yeah, sure, let's go check that out. So I meet you in Clarion here, and at Timbuk Brew, and man, those guys lit it up. I was so glad I went to that, because that, listening to those guys was Trevino is an amazing bass player.
Yeah.
Like, and all those guys were really good musicians, but and it blended so well. And I don't want to go somewhere, and I don't want to hear a cover band.
Yeah.
Like you sit there, and if you're gonna cover a song, I always, if I cover a song, I'm gonna do it my own way.
Yep.
And that's kind of where we're getting to there is like, hey, like I like to hear it your way. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't want to, because you're not going to sound, no matter how much you try, you're not going to make it sound like the original or whatever.
Yep.
And in my opinion, it always sounds better if you make it your own.
Mm-hmm.
And those guys did some covers of some songs that really, they added their own little twist to it, and it was great.
Yeah. I also think going to watch these bands like that, like let's backtrack. You and I are actually going to go see the Chris Carr band at the winery out near Badger, but the problem with that was, like, you weren't going to get back into town until we would have ended up meeting at the show with like a half an hour left. So we opted to go to Clarion instead to see Brutal Republic, which was also on the plate. We were going to try and make both happen, but time just wasn't on our side. But yeah, it's like you said, you go see these bands and you see them play live, and the ability for either Chris Carr Band or Jay Clyde Band or Brutal Republic or any of these cover bands to toss an original song in there and do it so well that, like, if somebody walked up blindly, they would just be like, dude, this song's awesome. Who in the 80s wrote this song? Who in the 70s wrote this song? And you're like, oh, that was me, baby. Like, an hour ago I wrote this or whatever, like I wrote this last week, and that's crazy stuff to hear that stuff come out of people's mouths when you're just like, dude, I don't know. I'm not much of a songwriter myself, so like listening to other people write music and put it all together is pretty mind-blowing. Jay Clyde Band's YouTube page has got a handful of their original songs on it, and they're pretty darn good.
Well, that's something I've been kind of trying to get into. I've always kind of been about, like, expressing myself with music in a way, and I've wrote different styles, like when it comes to blues or rock, like, and just kind of dabbled with it, I should say, and there's a few, maybe two songs I've written that it's kind of more of a country theme because it's about, like, rodeoing. Yep. And but I always thought those kind of sounded good, and one of them's more of a funnier song about a girl. Oh, nice. And it is. Like, everybody got a kick out of that one. Like, everybody just, that it's laughable. Yeah. And so they all like that. I played that for my rodeo team a lot, and they all got a kick to that. But some of the blues stuff I've been trying to get into it, and kind of range it out and do some improv stuff, do a little bit of the soloing, because I figured that out, man, and it's been going pretty good, I'd say. Like, I haven't been messing with it lately. I've just been trying to learn songs that the guys I play with know, and but besides that, it's really fun to express yourself in those ways, I guess. Yeah, and like once you start to figure out, like, oh, we're playing in the key of G, it's minor, here's the G minor pentatonic or a G minor scale, I'm going to solo in this, and every note I hit is going to sound good. And like once you start tinkering around with it, like I remember the first time I ever got to do, like, first time I ever did pentatonic scales against, like, backing tracks and things, and I was just kind of like just following the scale up and then following it back down. I'm like, this sounds pretty good. What if we jumble the notes a little bit, or what if we go back and forth, a little bit? And so you just start adding, like, little bits of this, that, and the other, and experimenting to see what sounds good and what doesn't. And then, like, the other fun part about that was if you can go, like, online and check out, like, oh, like, what are some common blues licks or some blues riffs or just a few note patterns that people use a lot of in blues, and then you're like, oh man, I thought of that one, like I on my own dinking around in the basement, I play that, so it's kind of neat to see that, like, some of the stuff that you hear that sounds super, super cool is not, like, mind-blowingly complex, Oh, for sure. Like, I played with. I got a chance to jam with Kevin Bird a while back.
Oh yeah, I was going to make sure we brought that up in this podcast.
For sure, man. That was so cool. Well, I sat there. What really happened with it? That was kind of funny. There's hay bales on the side of the road.
Yeah, there's like giant hay bales on the side of the road. Okay, thanks, Iowa.
Yeah. But anyway, I saw him singing with a group at this local place. This Salt Lift Cider is what it's called, and I walk up to him because I was just curious. I was like, man, I really like this guy singing. I'm just gonna go compliment him on it. And so I walk up, and not really knowing who he was, I had heard of him. I heard he's really good, so I decided to go check him out. And I'm sitting there, and I said, hey man, like you put a lot of soul in your vocals, and I really like it. I really like what you do. You remind me of a lot of the old blues guys. Like, you really remind me of kind of how Freddie King sings, like with the kind of the slow when it's powerful, it hits you. And I'm like, man, that's freaking awesome. And he's like, yeah, man, cool. Do you play it all? And I'm like, well, I play a little bit of blues. He goes, good. I play some blues too. I'm jamming at Parlor City in Cedar Rapids, and on like Tuesday, and this is on a Sunday. And he's like, you should come jam with me.
That's so
and
cool.
I'm just like, dude, hell yeah, like, man, that's awesome. He's like, yeah, don't, kind of like, you better show up. I hope you're there, man. I hope you're there. Don't stand me up on this. I was like, hell yeah, I'm definitely coming. And I show up, and there was something downtown going on in Cedar Rapids that day. So there is a bunch of people there. And sorry about that.
Busy man.
But there's a bunch of people there, and I'm just like, oh man, like, this is the most people I've probably ever played in front of. And with Kevin Burt, no less. And I get up there, and I pull my guitar out, and he's just like, man, that is one of the coolest axes I've seen in a while, man. And I was like, oh, appreciate it. I got my Epiphone hollow body ES335 going on. And he's just like, yeah, yeah, that thing's sweet, man. I can't wait to hear it. And I plug it in, and just kind of make sure it's in tune and stuff. And he's like, man, that thing sounds good. I think I was playing through like a twin reverb he had, which is probably the most expensive amp I've ever played through.
Yeah, dude.
And I'm sitting there, and he's like, well, what do you know? I was like, well, I can play any rhythm part. I've never really gone into improv stuff. Like, I'm not very good at it. And he goes, all right, listen to me, man. This is what you got to do. And he just kind of shows me a lick, and he's just like, just stay right there, and up a couple frets in this area, type thing. He was telling me about like the BB King blues box kind of deal.
Yeah, dude.
And so I just went with it, and we played this gosh, what was it, a song by that John Lee Hooker and Santana, I think.
Oh yeah,
did.
we looked it up the other day.
And I want to say it's called The Healer or something like that. I can't really remember. I'd have to look it up. But we played that song, and I just start to, I just went with it, and I did it.
Yep.
And I just started ripping one out, and Kevin, looks up because, we were coming back around to the turnaround where the vocals come back because, there's this dude playing on a blues harp, and the keyboardist, they both did, their own solo section, and then we go to the turnaround, and right before he starts singing, I was like, screw it, I'm jumping in. And I did it, and he just kind of, looks up, surprised, and he's like, damn, he literally says to me as we're playing, he's like, damn, that sounds good, man, you're doing good. And I was like, yeah, thanks, man, I'm trying.
Oh, yeah, no kidding. Dude, I love Kevin B.F. Burt. For people that don't know Kevin B.F. Burt, I saw him, 10 years ago, dude. I saw him 10 years ago in Waterloo. He opened up for Eric Sardinas, who plays Delta blues on a resonator guitar with a slide with multiple capos and
Nice.
Into a Rivera distorted amp. It's wild stuff. So Kevin B.F. Burt opened up for him. I'm pretty sure he comes from a pretty musical family. I talked to him at the show. He was super nice. Guarantee he would not remember me because it's been 10 years ago. But the guy's super cool. I've been looking to maybe attempt to sit down with Kevin B.F. Burt. It's been one of those people that I've always thought about while I had this podcast to be Oh yeah, Kevin would be a good guy to sit down with because he's gone all around the state and further. He's been playing for at least 10 years.
Yeah, dude. Not too long ago, he was like a waterfront blues fest in like Oregon or some shit. Like,
Yeah, dude.
Like, and I watched some. He had like a Facebook Live post that he was playing out there, and I was like, man, it's freaking awesome.
Yeah, dude, it's super cool to have people like that. Like we were talking about, local people, local-ish. I guess he's in Iowa. I'm not sure exactly where he's from. I think it's from like the Cedar Valley area, somewhere between like Waterloo to Cedar Rapids to Iowa City, somewhere in that area.
Yep.
I think he's from. But it's kind of cool to just have him out here. He's playing shows all the time. I'm pretty sure he played a show in Fort Dodge a few years back at like the Blues Under the Trees, maybe. He's been everywhere. So
I think they just had that this last weekend.
Yeah, which was just this last weekend.
Yeah.
I did not attend, unfortunately. Dude, this crazy part about this weekend, I was totally gonna go see the Ned Freely Fun Band in Timbuk Brew. We just drove past it actually, and I was gonna go see them on Friday night, and I fell asleep. So I ended up like ruining my entire Friday night. Didn't get to go see any live music. It was kind of unfortunate. But
I've for some reason been doing that lately too. I'll take a nap that ends up being way more than a nap.
yeah, it's just like it's like 5 o'clock. I'm just gonna take a nap, and you wake up, it's 3 in the morning.
Yeah, like god damn it.
Yeah, great. Well, I guess that's what I get for sleeping 4 hours a night.
Yeah, right.
So I don't know, but dude, that's like one of the super coolest things. Like when you sent me a picture on your Snapchat of you, it was a picture of you and Kevin Burt, and you didn't even tell me you were gonna like play with him and stuff. And I was like, dude, where the fuck did you meet Kevin Burt? Like, so there's an F-bomb, but like, yeah, dude, I was so blown away. And you're just like, dude, I played with him, and I was like, what? Like,
yeah, bro.
Like that's so cool.
Well, like, I think what it was is like, I might have put that on my story or something, and you're like, dude, that's freaking badass,
Yeah.
Like, and I'm like, yeah, and like, you're telling me, dude, like, I just got to sit down with him, like, dude wanted me to come hang out, like, that was so freaking cool, man. It's like you said, such a nice guy too, like,
yeah, dude.
like that's the thing is, within the 5 minutes of meeting him, I'm talking to him about music and playing the blues, man. He's just like, well, come jam with me.
Yeah.
Type of deal. Like, I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Like, dude, you're freaking awesome. Like,
Yeah, dude. And someone of his like talent and exposure, just being like, yeah, just come jam with me. That's super cool. Like,
well, yeah, and well, like that's the thing too. Is like, and we're gonna learn some stuff too. It's gonna be a learning experience too for you.
Oh, nice.
And I'm like, hell yeah, of course. I'm always trying to learn something new when it comes to playing guitar, man.
Yep.
And like the fact that I got to sit down with him and a couple minutes, I literally pull my guitar out and plug it in. He's like, okay, this is what we're gonna do, just play this type of deal. And by the end of the 4 songs I might have played with him, like I'm jamming like hardcore, like getting way into it, like feel like I learned so much within that couple minutes,
Yeah. Well, that's another thing. It's really special when somebody can make you feel that comfortable with doing what you're doing. It's for me, it was Jeremy Ober. Like, hats off to Jeremy Ober. I ended up going to jam nights quite often and not actually doing any jams because I was scared or whatever. And Jeremy just, like, I've told this story before. I was at a Barnum jam, and he was just like, here, hold this for a second. He just handed me the guitar, and then he walked away. And that was, like, pretty much just like, now you're in charge, dude. You're playing guitar. So it was like, oh, God. So, and nobody's out there to make you feel bad. And, like, when you know that the musicians that are inviting you to come play with them are positive people that are more than willing to help you out and make you feel welcome, etc. Like, there's nothing that beats that in the music community.
Oh, for sure. Like, and that's one of the best things too, is it's been a huge learning experience every time I'm playing with anybody, really. And I sit there and I'm trying my ass off to do my best, but these guys are all like so positive about it. Just like, hey, like, do this, or you could try this, or even if I'm just watching somebody play while I'm playing a rhythm part, I'm like, oh, okay, like I could do that. Like, I'm going to try that.
That's also one of the funnest things when you see somebody doing something and you're confident enough with your own talent to be like, oh, I'm going to try this. Like, it's not like it's super difficult. It's not like it's, I don't know. It's one of those things when you realize that it's not impossible and you can actually probably go do it if you really wanted to. It's pretty, like, it's like a comforting feeling, and it gives you a little bit of a sense of a pride, and you actually want to go out and try and share some of your, I don't want to call them talents, but you want to share your talents with people, you want to be like, check this out,
Yeah,
like,
for sure, man.
whether it be like going to jam nights and things like that, or I guess as far as me, when I first started learning how to play music and keys and getting back into things like that, I was just like, oh, I'm gonna join up with a band again, you know. And I just kind of kept my ear to the ground and was just like, are there any bands out there looking for somebody? Because I can rip some rhythm guitar, and if like absolutely 100% necessary, I could pull out a lead or two. And you know, so hats off to the Three Finger Betty crew. They were looking to deepen their sound, so they were like, oh hey, you know, if you want to come in and jam with us a few times, go for it. And I was like, all right, what kind of songs should I learn? And they were like, well, here's our album. And I was like, all right. And then literally all I did was just like learn the opening riff to everything. And then it was just like, all right, this is in the key of this, which means that I could figure out how to play all the chords. And then you just go with it. You keep going until I showed up to the first practice, and it's just like, I know everything. I know all 12 songs on that album that you sent me. And they're like, what? You know, like, because that's just, I wanted to be prepared. I didn't want to waste anyone's time. I wanted to show people that I could do what I told them I could do. And I surely did, man. It was kind of cool. It was kind of the same way with Unity, where Sean Oakes had, you know, seen me play with Three Finger Betty, and he's like, hey dude, we're looking for another guitarist, do you think you could do this? And I was just like, oh, I don't even know, man. Like, I really don't know, because this is going to be a big deal for me, because Unity plays a lot of notes. They're very technical. It's like a shredder band. They're power metal or prog of sorts, you know. And I was just like, I don't know if I can do this. It's going to be pretty tough. And, you know, Sean was just like, hey, you know, I know if you stick your nose to the grindstone and you just stick it out and practice this stuff, you'll be able to do it. It's you got this. So all I did was I was just like, all right, I'll take your word for it. So he sent me the files over, and what I did was I learned everything he sent me, because I didn't know what songs we were going to be playing at the first practice. I didn't know what songs were on their set list. I didn't know what they played at their last show, or what their normal set list consisted of, or whether or not they wanted to learn stuff from the new album that they're writing or the old album that they'd already written. But it was one of those cool things where it gives you the confidence to actually at least go out there and try. And then, like, just trying, very seriously, just trying has been big in my life lately, because you just have to try. If you got somebody that has the ability but doesn't try, then they're not doing anything.
They're not going to get anywhere with it, type of deal. And like, well, and that's hats off to you for doing that too, because like learning a whole album takes time.
Yeah,
like
dude.
To get stuff down, like you don't have to get it 100% down, but to get it 100% down, it takes time.
Oh yeah,
a lot of time. But like, if you get it like 80% to where you know the chords and you know the progressions of it, like you can pretty much just go along with it and play. It's like, okay, this part, and now I switch to this. Okay, I know what I'm doing, type of deal.
Yep.
So and that's the biggest thing too, is like jamming with the guys back home that I play with every once in a while. They're like, oh, we're doing this song, and I'm like, okay, so like what key is in it? They tell me. I'm like, okay, I can play it now. Like, yeah. I know how it goes. I just can't remember the notes. So tell me quick, and then we'll be good.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, I did that a little bit with the recent Unity practice. We went on a small hiatus, and then it was just like, hey, show up and let's play a couple shows or whatever. And I was like, all right, yeah, I got this. I can't drive down that. All right, yeah, we're actually in Clarion right now, cruising around looking for.
In the graveyard.
Looking for Glen Buxton's grave, and I'm pretty sure it's in the other section, so we're going to have to go over to the other section. But, yeah, it was one of those deals where no matter how rusty I was, like we were talking about, it's not like riding a bike. I couldn't just pick up a guitar and rip out Unity stuff, like, fresh off the bat. I had to sit down for a week and grind at it real hard, and then even showing up to practice, you put everybody else in the mix. One person hits a wrong note, and it throws everything off, and it's a tough thing, man, especially when you're playing that many notes, that intricately, like well timed out and things like that.
Yeah, and it's really like it's sped up, and it's like you said, a lot of notes.
Yeah.
So you gotta like really know what the hell you're doing.
Yeah, and it just kind of showed me that nothing's impossible though. Like if I can attack Unity material and learn it all, especially if somebody gives me all the proper tools to do that. Shout out to Sean for doing all the GP5 files. For people that don't know what Guitar Pro is, go check out Guitar Pro. It's a really cool software. Sean pretty much just like wrote out all the notes in music form, and it turns it into guitar tabs, and you can play it like at half speed and things like that to try to get your chops up and build up your speed. And that was beautiful, man. Like without
nice.
that,
Never even heard of that, man.
dude. Without that, it would not have been as easy as it was. So, hats off to Sean for putting in like that kind of ludicrous work to do that, because that's not an easy thing to do. All the Unity guys have put in a lot of work. It's been a lot of transformations over the years, and it's kind of crazy to like get together with those guys and realize that I'm kind of up to their level ish. Granted, I'm probably one of the least talented musicians in the band, but it's still one of those things where it's just like, dude, I never thought in a million years, like I recently did a podcast with Alonzo, and like I never thought in a million years I'd be in a band with Alonzo, let alone be up to the level to have him be okay with like standing next to me and playing music. Not that Alonzo's like a music snob or anything, but Alonzo takes his music very seriously, and that was one of the things that made me most nervous, was just like, I don't want to let like Alonzo and Sean down, because those are the two guys that stuck their neck out for me to be in this band and actually try, so I wanted to do as good by them as I could, because it wasn't something I was going to go out there and waste everyone's time. There was no way that was what was going to happen.
Well, I will say too, I think this is with a lot of musicians, really are pretty humble about things.
Yeah.
I mean, like always kind of saying, like I said, it's a learning experience and you always can learn more, type of deal. And I do think you are way more talented than you ever say you are. By the way, like I want to give you that right there. You're a pretty good guitarist, man.
Thank you.
I love hearing you play. But yeah, it's one of those things that it's really humbling, and especially to play with people that you never, like you said, never would have thought that you were gonna be playing in a band with this person or something. Or when I'm jamming with Kevin Bird, I'm sitting there like, holy shit, I'm playing with Kevin Bird.
Yeah, dude. That's something like that would blow my mind. Like,
yeah,
I don't know.
Like I really am, especially at the point where I'm at too, is like I'm not that good. Like I'm decent. I'll give myself the credit that I'm a decent guitar player, and like I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But like not near level to some of the people I played with.
Yeah. And that's like humbling and inspiring at the same time, to be able to be like, oh, I stood next to this guy and played, and it didn't suck.
It sounded good. Like, I was talking to the guys that I went with when I went to jam with Kevin. Like, I'm sitting there and I get done and I'm like, dude, like I feel like that kicked ass. Like I was like that. I feel like it sounded really good. I mean, I'm up there, and of course I feel like it sounds good because I'm fucking playing it. But like they're like, no, dude, like we haven't really heard you play that good. Like you sounded really good up there. Like what the hell did he tell you?
Yeah. Well, it also makes me wonder, does that have something to do with like the person you're playing with is playing that good that it makes you sound that good, or is it a thing where like the inspiration of having that person next to you makes you feel like you're that much better, or exactly what is going on?
And I think that's might be part of it, is like the people you play with. If you're surrounded by good musicians, like it almost makes you want to up your game quite a bit.
Yeah,
like
totally.
And that's something that I felt in the rodeo world as well. Like when I was going to pro rodeos and I was standing on the buck and shoots next to a world champion that I was competing against.
Yeah,
I'm like, man, like I've got to bring my A game today, because these guys are the best at what in the sport in this world, and I'm just Vinny Benyshek sitting over here like not really well known.
Yeah.
And I got to really ride today, and I feel the same when I'm playing music too. If I'm playing with people that maybe like, which I'd like to say, hey, like I've played with people that like aren't that good or type of deal, but a lot of the people I've played with are pretty damn good.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. I mean, I've been fortunate in that aspect too. Let's say, like, the only drummer I've ever really spent a lot of time around was Clint, the guy that plays in Three Finger Betty, Unity, Thorhammer. I mean, you just name it. Speedrun, Dark Mirror. You want to keep naming names, we can just keep naming names. But he's that good for a reason. And like when I first joined Unity, he was not the drummer. It was, oh God, I don't want to forget this. I'm so sorry. Oh God, Tim Cummins. There's that. All right, that right. Oh my God, I feel so bad right now, because I'm looking for Glen's grave. But yeah, it's dude, like that was a cool thing to actually get to sit down with another drummer and be like, dude, this is so cool. Like this guy plays everything the same, but just a little different. And it comes back down to, like you said, dude, are those people making me step my game up? Is it just their playing that's doing it? Is it the fact that I don't want to let them down? Because, like, you said that, like, a lot of musicians are humble, and we all, you know, for the most part are pretty humble people, but a lot of it comes down to, like, you have a sense of pride, too, that you're not going to, I guess, outwardly let out, but you've got this sense of pride that you don't want to show up somewhere, like I said, and waste people's time, whether that be on, like, a stage performing for people or everybody's meeting in this town to have a practice. I'm not going to make everyone drive 2 hours to wherever to have a practice and just suck. You know, it doesn't make any sense.
Sure.
You got to show up prepared for everything. All right, so we're at the grave, right? Or well, we're at the cemetery right now. We gotta
find this bad boy.
We're gonna do a little cruising around here. So I'm just gonna pause the podcast for now, and we'll just hop back on here in a second. So we'll be back in a sec.
The graveyard.
All right, we're back. Just got done checking out Glen Buxton's grave.
Definitely cool. His grave is super cool. Got the music to Schools Out on it.
Yeah.
Like written out in note form.
Yeah, we were looking at it like, what is that? I'm like, oh, I could probably hum this out. I'm like, oh, that's Schools Out. I know that just based on the rhythm, you know. So that was a really cool thing to actually see that. It's really humbling. You and I were sitting there talking about like how long do I stand here? Because I feel like I should stay here for a while and just hang out, and it's kind of just awe-striking. I don't know, realizing that somebody that influential in music is like buried like 20 miles from my house. You know?
For sure, man, for sure.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a really simple gravestone. I took some pictures. I'll probably put them up on my Audible Farm Instagram and Facebook. It'll probably be there before this episode comes out, because that's kind of how excited I am just to go see Glen's grave. Yeah, we took pictures of the front and back of it, and Vinny and I snapped a couple pictures next to it, so you'll be able to see those on either his Facebook or Instagram or Snapchat or something. I'm sure I shared links in your episode prior to your social media. So,
yep.
At least your Snapchat, I think I shared. So
Yep.
So yeah, it was a cool deal, man. It's a nice grave. It's real simple headstone on there. I was kind of taken back. It seems like there's a lot of open space on it, but I also don't know what the thought process behind designing it was, or if somebody had designed it specially like that for a reason.
Well, it's like, what's it say on the back there?
Like Glen touched this world with his music, something like that.
Yep.
Let me see here. I took a picture of it. Glen blessed this world with his music.
Yep, for sure, man.
And he very much did. You know, we were standing there talking, and it was just like, you know, Glen didn't really play anything that was like heavy metal, you know, but it was pretty much the precursor to what we call heavy metal today.
Yeah, it was like a lot of more or less a blues rock feel with a, you know, Alice Cooper's known for his onstage antics, and it's kind of got, you know, dark. There's a lot of his lyrics were pretty dark.
Yes.
In a sense, but the music was like not heavy.
No, and that's like one of the things when I first started kind of getting into music, and people were like, oh man, like Alice Cooper was like one of the people that was at the forefront. You know, he had those onstage antics. He wore eye makeup that was he blacked out his eyes quite a bit, and at the time I'm sure that was scary as hell for most people.
Yeah, you know, what, throwing chickens or whatever he did or whatever. I don't know if they were real or not, but like.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen Alice Cooper in modern times. I saw him like probably about 5 years ago or so, and you know, they do the whole thing where they decapitate somebody on stage or whatever, and they go through all like the goofy blood and gore stuff, and that's kind of, I mean, that's not what Alice Cooper was doing like initially. He wasn't just going absolutely balls crazy, but at the same time, like, he had a show that was not like anything else that anybody had ever done or seen at the time. And I mean, there's no way you could say that Kiss would have existed if Alice Cooper didn't exist, you know?
For sure, because like I feel like their type of deal, almost because they came after, and after he started doing some of that stuff, and their shows were, I want to say, kind of with the stage, the way they present themselves were in a similar way.
Yeah, they just took everything that Alice Cooper did and cranked it up to 10 and just went with it. It's like, you painted your eyes, we'll paint our whole face. You have fake blood and gore. Well, Gene Simmons is going to be like breathing fire and gurgling blood out of his mouth. Then so they just
we're gonna blow a bunch of shit up. Too.
Yeah, they just took it to the next level. And kudos to them. But like, let's also call a spade a spade. Kiss isn't like the most heavy music ever either.
Yeah, a lot of their stuff is basic rock stuff.
Yeah,
like, it's just rock riffs.
Yeah, and it's not like even heavy almost remotely at all. I remember showing Kiss to somebody I worked with, and they were just like, if you had to sing karaoke, what song would you sing? And I was like, I Was Made for Loving You by Kiss. Why? I don't know. I just said that song, and they were like, yeah. So I was just like, yeah, this would probably be the song. And they're like, isn't Kiss like heavy metal and stuff? I was like, YouTube the song real quick, because this person had never, believe it or not, never listened to Kiss. And so they were like, holy cow, this song is really good. This is Kiss. And I was like, yeah, listen to like almost any of their songs. Almost all their songs are kind of like this.
Well, and it's funny too, like they've got a song called Black Diamond that I used to really love to play, and I looked into it. I was like, man, these lyrics almost sound kind of dark. Well, they wrote it about a cat.
Is that what it's about?
Yeah, like that. It was like a stray cat that wandered around, and he always got like in the city, he'd get like soot on him, and so they called him Black Diamond or whatever.
Huh. I actually heard the story like was a euphemism for a prostitute. I don't know whether or not that's true, but I always heard they were like writing the song as a tongue-in-cheek tribute to like a high-level prostitute. So I don't know whether or not that's true, but
it could be. It makes sense for it.
Yeah, if you listen to the lyrics, it totally makes sense. The coolest part about that is when I was a freshman in high school, I guess all through high school they had talent competitions, and everybody in our school would do talent competition, like get a band together, whatever you could do. And some kids that were seniors got together and they played friggin' Black Diamond by Kiss at the talent competition.
Nice.
And there were people there that were just like, what is going on? And it was wild. That was another thing when I was like a freshman in high school, barely learning how to play guitar, and these people are out there ripping up Kiss like on stage at the high school level. I was just like, dude, this is so cool. Like,
that definitely, man. Like, and that's one of the, I want to say it's probably one of the first songs that I learned how to play by them on bass.
Yeah.
So it's like always been into that sort of thing, but
yeah, and it's not a ludicrously difficult song,
Yeah, definitely. It's a little bit different, but it's not like chords. What do you call it when you do that? In Stormtrooping, when they go da na na na.
Oh yeah, you're not like picking out chords from a guitar. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so like that would be like a G something,
a G and
then a C.
Yep.
Well, they did that in Black Diamond. It's an A.
Oh, okay.
Bow, da na na. That's an A.
Oh, okay. Do 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 do. Bow.
Yep.
Da na 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 na. Oh god, yeah. That song. Ever since I heard that in high school, it's like this is burned in my head forever now.
Yep.
Like, hats off to those guys playing that in high school. I never would have in a million years thought that like that would have been the start of me enjoying Kiss. But hats off to those guys for being so badass. When I was in high school, I had the benefit of it seemed like every 3 or 4 years in our high school there was a band of kids that got together and were like, we're gonna make a band or whatever. So when I was a freshman, the band that was like all through high school had been playing was called the Broken Frontmen, and it was just like a handful of guys from our school, and they played music, and they were really cool, and it was kind of neat to have them all, see them all get together and play tunes and shit like that. It was definitely an inspiration, and it's what got me started playing. I played in a band in high school. We called it Active Input. We played a lot of like pop punk covers and stuff like that, like Sum 41 and Newfound Glory and things. And a lot of the guys from Broken Frontmen still play music. As a matter of fact, like Clint, the guy who plays drums in Three Finger Betty and Unity, etc., his brother plays in a band now called Last in Line and has like the singer from Broken Frontman is in the band. So it's kind of cool to see like how all that just kind of comes full circle, and everybody still kind of makes music, and everybody's still just out there kicking ass. And I definitely dig on that aspect of music, the fact that it just never seems to go away completely, even if it does go away for a while.
Well, and that's one thing too, is a lot of the older guys that you play with, you know, they'll sit there, and almost every older dude I've ever played with, whether it be Kevin or the guys back home or anything like that, you sit there and they're like, you know, music that is the one thing that you'll always have, no matter what. No matter how old you get, whatever, you'll always have it.
Yeah, and it really, like, and that just comes down to playing jam nights. It doesn't matter who you're playing with. You know, went over a big old bump. That doesn't matter who you're playing with, because I'm like 30-ish, and I've played with people who are like, you know, 50, 60, 70, and it doesn't matter because music is the same language no matter where you go, no matter who you're playing with. I just pulled in, we're outside of Clarion. There's a artesian well here. I was telling you about this when we went to Timbuk Brew, and there it is. I was debating whether or not to grab some water just for shits and giggles, because I haven't been here and gotten water in a while. But yeah, I don't know. I just figured I'd pull in here because I saw it on the way into Clarion. It's just that's another one of those cool things where, like, I met you at school and you don't know this area very well, but there's like all these things around here that are just like little tidbits like that, or like the Glen Buxton grave, and it's just like, let's go check it out, man.
Let's go do it, man.
Yep. So, I mean, there's the artesian well. If you want to go grab some water, we can do.
And that's one thing too, man, is like we were talking about, like when you first brought this up, we've been wanting to do a podcast, another one for a while.
Yeah.
And we brought this up, and I'm just like, dude, let's do one. Let's go to Glen Buxton's grave and do it, because it'd be a good material for a podcast.
Yeah, no kidding.
You know? So, yeah, man, thanks for bringing me out here.
Yeah, no problem.
That's awesome, dude.
I am gonna pass on getting some water from the well because I got plenty of water in my car. But yeah, it's really cool to actually like get out here and go on these road trips with people. You and I were gonna record one on our way to go see Jay Clyde Band a couple weeks ago, and I don't know, we were just like driving and talking and never really got the podcast stuff out.
Yep.
But this, I think, is going to make for a slightly more entertaining conversation, etc.
For sure, man.
But I don't know, it's just one of those things. We were talking at the grave there about how like influential the guy was about everything. Like, I guarantee you there'd be none of the heavy music that we enjoy from our modern era would be a thing without, I don't know, Glen Buxton, Alice Cooper, all those guys making the music that they did. Hats off to him. It's also mind-blowing to think that like that guy was playing music in Clarion. Like,
yeah.
like it's just
no way.
That's just so mind-blowing. Like, I wish I would have known about it, and we talked about this on our way to Clarion, but like, dude, Glenn died when I was like 12 or 13. 12. He died when I was 12. So there's no way I wasn't into heavy music yet. I was still stuck on like whatever my parents were force feeding me through their car radio, which was usually like I don't know, whatever was on 97.7 The Bolt, which wasn't always good, or like my dad liked a lot of Roy Orbison. So I wasn't stuck on too much heavier music, but it's just one of those things like, man, I totally would have loved to go see him live, but I also wouldn't have known or probably respected it as much as I would have in my current day and age.
Yeah, at the time, like, I want to say around the time I was probably 13, 14 is when I was listening to a lot of their stuff, like when Glen Buxton, Alice Cooper era stuff.
Yep.
That and Kiss, a lot of the stuff like that, and man, that like. At that age, if he was alive and I walked into a bar or something, like with my dad or anything, or like we went and all of a sudden, oh yeah, this is Glen Buxton playing guitar in this local freaking bar in Iowa. Like,
yep.
What? Say again?
Yeah, no kidding. But still, even then, if I had like gone and seen that, I still would have just been like, "That's cool." But still, it wouldn't have hit me like it would have today. You know, like
for sure, man.
Dude,
for sure.
If you showed up and like if you just showed up and Glen Buxton was standing there playing, it'd be like, "What in the world? Like, how does this happen?"
Yep.
You know,
getting my guitar out.
Yeah, no kidding. Gonna shake this guy's hand, snap a picture with him, anything. You know, it's like. It's just mind-blowing to think that happened. I want to try and find the video that somebody sent me a long while ago. They sent me a link to a YouTube video of Glenn playing. I got to go find that thing, dig it out. If I can find it, I'll share it again. I'll I want to find it. And another thing I'm wondering is, like, I know there's got to be more to the Glen Buxton story than he just, like, moved to Clarion, played some shows here and there, and then died and his grave is there. There's got to be more to the story than that. And it makes me wonder, like, who around our area has more info on this Glen Buxton living in Clarion and playing shows, because I would like to talk to some people that played with him or were in a band with him, because from what I read, he had his own band and, like, based out of the Clarion area. So I kind of want to check that out. If anybody that's listening knows anything about that, shoot me a line. I'd love to sit down and talk to you and unearth a little bit more of the Glen Buxton story around the area, because it's just such a neat thing.
Well, and that would definitely be a cool thing to learn about, like, more, like, man, who comes to Clarion, Iowa, a rock star,
Yeah.
Like, to live out their life, I guess, if you will.
Yeah.
And,
the story that, like, and that's the weird thing is, like, I heard about Glenn prior to, like, looking it up on the internet. So you end up with one of those, like, word of mouth rumors where somebody was just like, yeah, Glenn knew a guy that lived out here and he didn't like hanging out with tons of people, and it's not like he was like Mondo famous, but he'd go places and he didn't like people just being like, "Whoa, Glen Buxton" or whatever. So he just moved here because he knew a guy and helped a guy out on his farm or something, and that's like all he did. And that's like the story I heard. I was like, there's no way that can be true. And you look it up, and from what I read on the internet, a lot of it is true. He like moved out here to kind of get away from everybody and just enjoyed his life out here in Iowa. And there's nothing wrong with that, like moving out into the sticks and doing what you want to do.
Yeah, exactly. Especially for somebody like that, or anything like, that's got to get to a dude. If you walk around and, like, everybody knows who you are type of deal, maybe.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, I want to go somewhere where I'm not getting walked up to all the time and being talked to by everyone all the time type of deal.
Yeah. Fame has been one of those weird things to me that I just don't ever know how to deal with. I think because it's such a foreign thing in general. Like, I've got a podcast. It's got like 400 and some odd likes, I think, on Facebook, and I get friend requests almost every day now from people I don't know, and it's just weird because some people won't respond to messages, and some people I have nobody in common with them, so I'm assuming I don't know them, and it's just a weird thing to have people like want to contact you and get a hold of you, and I'm unsure why, and they're like, "Oh, I heard you on the podcast, it's great," and then it's like, you start to get like almost embarrassed and humble. You're just like, thanks, like I just do my best, and it just happens, and I'm just talking to people. I'm a regular guy, and like, I'm sure that imagine being as famous as he was, or as famous as like anybody. Like, I don't even care if you're Justin Bieber. Why is Justin Bieber crazy? Because everybody knows him. Like, it's gotta suck going everywhere.
And everybody knows what you're doing all the time.
Yeah, like, I went to a Starbucks and 48 people got their phones out and just started videotaping because it's Bieber. Yeah. Granted, Glenn didn't have to go through the cell phone phase of today, which would drive anybody up a wall, but...
For sure, man. Well, everybody's always watching your every move type of deal, and, like, getting everything known to man on freaking camera.
Yeah. So. Today's day and age especially, it's wild. It's like, it's unfortunate, but it's not. And I mean, like, that's the best and worst part about it, because, like, right now, what are we doing? We're having a conversation and audio recording it, and we're going to upload it. So it's, like, not like we're doing anything. We're willfully buying into that system of putting this stuff out there, and I've done it with other bands where I will videotape them and put their videos online, so you end up, like, you just do that everywhere, and I don't know, like, I'm just as guilty on one side of the coin as I am on the other side of the coin of, like, I don't want people to come up to me and say hi to me at shows, but at the same time, I really do, and I just don't know what to say when people come up and they're like, "Dude, you're the podcast guy," and I finally saw your band, and it's just like, I just get super humble, and I'm like, "Oh God, well, thank you so much. It means a ton to me that you actually went out and saw." Like, I just melt into a pile of, like, I'm a regular guy. Don't think anything more of me, please.
Yeah, well, like, that's one thing too, and it was super humbling. One, rodeo's kind of like that as in a sport. It's super humbling. Like, when you're out doing the stuff that I got to do, like pro rodeoing or going out and doing that, mm-hmm. and realizing, like, man, I'm doing this, and this is awesome type of deal.
Yeah.
Like, and you go and maybe, like, win a pro rodeo or win a rodeo anywhere, really, and these people from that town are like, oh, you're that guy, huh? Like, yeah, we watched you. Like, you're awesome. Thanks for coming. Like, I remember specifically one time, there was this older gentleman, like probably close to 90 years old, something like that, and he's wearing like this. I just won this pro rodeo, so first one I ever won, and I walk up to this guy and because he's wearing like a veteran's hat type of deal, and I just walked up to him after the deal, and I said, hey, I just want to come up and thank you for your service. It's the guys like you that you're the reason why I get to do the things I do, and enjoy,
yeah, definitely.
and especially in the time he served, he's like a World War II vet,
Oh God.
and like, and they're like, oh, that's so cool, like, thank you, and this guy's daughter, who's also a bit older than me, and got to be like probably around 60s, comes up to me and said, hey, can we get a picture with you? He wants to picture with you. You're the guy that won the rodeo, and you just humbled him so much, and he loved it, the fact that you came up and came out of your way to say that to him. And I said, dude, no problem at all, type of deal. And these people like actually kept in contact with these people. Like, they friended me on Facebook. This lady did anyway, and she's like, oh, you should come back up sometime and visit her or something like that. And, it's just stuff like that, the people you meet, and it's just super, super humbling when people like enjoy what you do and like want to see you do it,
Yeah, I mean, like, that's something that you and I had actually talked about a handful of times, was the performance aspect. Even like playing a guitar and having people come up to you afterwards and just be like, oh my God, you played so good, it was great, I love it, and blah blah blah. And like I told you, people come up to me and they say hi to me like, I know you, I've seen you, and it's just like, oh snap, like, what do I do? And you were like, man, you just got to roll with it, because these people probably are only saying hi because they like doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
And that came from your aspect of rodeoing, because that's a performance sport, like, it's a sport, but it's also a performance in its own kind of right. So you're out there in front of a crowd of people doing your thing, and then if somebody likes you, you don't know them any more than the man in the moon. They sat in the crowd and watched you, and you're just like, hey, thanks, buddy, or like, I want to buy you a drink, and it's just like, sure, go for it, So I took a little bit of that from you, where you just got to kind of say thanks and go with it. It's tough to do sometimes, being as humble as we can be. Not to say you and I are two humble people, but you and I are, we are kind of humble people when it comes down to aspects like that. But that's just props to you for me being able to learn something like that off of you. You being younger than I am and still being able to teach me social constructs and things like that. It's a cool thing.
Well, and it's like just being around, because like I started traveling and stuff when I was younger, and doing all that, and it's just, I've been around it for so long that it just, talking to people comes pretty easy to me.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
like,
dude.
Being outgoing and stuff, it's just it's so easy to me anymore that I could just walk up to any guy, kind of like the whole Kevin Burt deal.
Yep.
I didn't really know who he was. I'd heard of him.
Yep.
He was singing super good, so I was like, dude, I'm just gonna walk up to this guy and talk to him.
Yeah.
Type of deal, and
it ended up playing to your benefit.
Yeah, exactly, man. Like, I've learned stuff from him. I got to jam with him, type of deal. Like, you gotta almost be like that to do the things you want to do.
Yeah, and it just comes down to, like, on the way down to Clarion, we were talking about, you just got to be the guy out there doing the stuff. You got to try. Like, make an effort, not an excuse. That has been my motto ever since I went back to Iowa Central, because it was just like, dude, like, I can come in here and make all the excuses in the world, and I'm not going to get any better at any of the things I'm doing. You just got to go out there and actually make an effort. Do the friggin' homework, show up to class, try to learn the stuff.
And don't be late to Dawn's classes.
No. Hi, Dawn, if you're listening.
Because she'll call you at 8:01.
Yeah, on speakerphone and
to
make
the
you
entire class.
And make you bring donuts.
Yeah, let's just say I had to do that a couple times.
Oh, man. But, that just comes back down to the fact that, like, when you and I, we didn't really become, I wouldn't say, like, friends at Iowa Central until, like, the last year we started, like, hanging out a little bit here and there. And it was one of those deals where it was just like, dude, you like to go out and party. I'm always out, like, doing stuff at shows, and just, I'm never in Humboldt or Fort Dodge area, but somehow you and I always had our homework done and always knew the material. Like, how does that happen? It's just because we made the effort and we didn't make an excuse. It wasn't like I came back and was just like, I had a blah, 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 blah. It's like...
I did this, or like I was traveling to college rodeos and stuff.
Yeah, nobody cares.
Yeah.
Literally nobody cares. Like, when I would hear other people make excuses, it was just like, I don't care.
Dumb stuff.
And so I kept thinking, like, when I make an excuse, I bet other people think the same thing I do. And that's obviously, like, if you took Psych 101, that's confirmation bias, so, like, that's a little bit of nonsense, but at the same time, it's just the way I feel. So,
and I'm not gonna throw any names out there. I'm sure you know who I'm talking about when I say this, but like there's a girl in a lot of our classes that would sit there and just pretty much blatantly say, "Yeah, I don't even care."
Yeah,
I don't even care.
Yeah,
I suck at this, and I'm not smart, so whatever. And like, it's like, okay, why don't you want to learn it then? Like,
yeah, dude, and that hurts so much though, like, because that comes down to somebody not even want to make the effort.
Yeah.
Gosh, it's so difficult.
Like, you're here, you're paying for this. You might as well try a little harder than you are trying.
Yeah, rather than just say you don't care.
Yeah.
So let's take that to, like, the guitar aspect. Like, here's the two biggest excuses I hear when I try to teach guitar lessons to people. My fingers are too small. My fingers are too big. Those are the two biggest excuses I have from everybody that I've ever tried to teach guitar to.
I've heard that a lot too.
Well, what is the perfect size of finger to play this? And then go watch Tal Farlow play some jazz music and tell me that his fingers aren't the size of friggin' sausages. They look like goddamn 12-inch bratwursts he's trying to play guitar with. He's doing just fine. His fingers are friggin' huge. Like, the kids on School of Rock are rocking it out, and they got, like, 1-inch little nubs because they're tiny kids. You can't tell me your fingers are too small or too big. It's the people that actually went out there and were just like, I don't care if my fingers are too small or too big. I'm going to find a way to make this happen and put in the effort to try to learn stuff, you know?
And there's not, one way to play everything,
No.
like, there's multiple way to play the same chord.
Yep.
So, like, you could sit there, and that's the thing I had for the longest time. I was like, kind of thought, hey, I do have a smaller set of fingers. Like how am I supposed to reach this far to play this chord?
Mm-hmm.
And do it fast.
Yep.
Switch fast. Well, you just practice.
Yep.
You just keep going, and eventually you're getting there.
Yeah.
And you do it.
Muscle memory takes over, and it just is what it is. And that's, dude, so much of that is like, comes back to like when you and I went to a school for accounting, and now that's like what I do. I do a lot of accounting, and it's wild to sit there and somebody asks you an accounting question and you just blurt out the answer because they're just like here's one that I get every now and then from somebody. They were like, okay, if I'm going to make an entry on this person's books, which one is the accounts receivable and which one is the accounts payable? And it sounds like a simple question to you and me, but we've been like immersed in this for years and years and years. And to somebody that does not always do those kind of books, it might be kind of confusing because I work mostly with payroll, so we don't really have to deal too much with accounts receivable and stuff. But to remind somebody of that, it's just like, oh, if you're receiving something and they haven't paid you, that's receivable. It's like, holy cow, like, I learned this and I didn't even have to like think about it and write it on paper or I didn't have to do a T account. I didn't have to like sit down and try and like which one's the credit and which one's the debit. I just said it and it was like, holy cow, I know this stuff. Where that's just like common application of knowledge. Putting in that little bit of an effort is just enough to get you to have the knowledge to do things. And you don't have to be the most talented person in the world to go out there and do that stuff. Going out and watching music, some of the most entertaining musicians I've seen aren't shredders. They aren't people that can play a million miles an hour. They aren't people that can sweep pick. They don't tap like Eddie Van Halen. But I still enjoy their music. Why? Because they're out there every week playing the stuff that they're playing, and it's entertaining to me.
Yeah.
If you got to put that effort in, and you've been putting the effort in quite a bit lately. Like, I see you on Snapchat, you've been practicing more than you ever have. It always seems like you're learning like a new song, and I don't know where you're getting all these song ideas from.
Like, I just I'm listening to something, and I'm just like, man, I'm gonna play that and see, and I'm gonna record it on my Snapchat, and if it sounds good, I'm gonna put it on my story.
Yeah, dude. That's like the coolest thing ever too, to just listen to a song and be like, I think I could play this. Where it's so funny to ask somebody that doesn't play music. You're like, hey, give me some song suggestions of stuff you think I should play, and they're like, I don't know, let's just throw out like. They just throw out like a Van Halen song, and you're like, well, that might be a little difficult. And they're like, I don't know how difficult songs are. And it's like, just listen to what songs sound like they don't have a whole lot of notes. But somebody that doesn't play music, they don't know any more than the Man in the Moon.
Exactly. I've had a lot of people be like, oh, dude, you should play this song. And I'm like, I could try to play that song.
Yeah.
I will, if you really want to hear me play that song, I will try. And if it sounds good enough, I will send it to you or put it on my story type of deal. Like, I will do that, but if it's just not working out, it's not gonna happen.
Yeah, exactly. And there's some songs like, yeah, I could play this, but I can't play it and sing it. Like stuff like
exactly.
that.
there are a lot of songs that are like, oh yeah, you know, I can play that song and I can sing that song, but I can't play that song and sing it at the same time.
Exactly. Yeah. You know, and like kudos to your Snapchat account, because like I would watch songs that you would play on your Snapchat account, and I had to play that show at the Arts Festival, or at the Arts Center in Humboldt that you went to. Actually, you showed up and watched me play, which you know, thanks a million for doing that. You're one of a handful of people that actually just came out just to see me play, so that was really humbling that you'd like drive to Humboldt to watch that. But like, yeah, I don't know, it's just really neat to be able to. I was trying to find the right set of songs to play, and I had stuff that would cover, like, I had to cover 2 hours, and I had stuff that would cover about an hour and a half. And I was like, I need to pick out some new songs. So like, what I would do is I would just go through your Snapchat and just be like, oh, can't you see? Like, oh, I never even thought of playing this song, and Vinny's playing it and just ripping it up, so I'm going to play this song, you know? So like, I started picking ideas from you on your Snapchat, whether or not like.
Well, and I remember that too, because you got a hold of me and you're like, man, is there anything like you can send me, you know, maybe? And I'm like, I'm searching for ideas, and I'm like, well, you know, I know your style, I know what you like to play, so I'm gonna try to pick songs out like that type of deal.
Yep.
And I tried to help you out, so yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
You looked at that and
took
from it.
Yeah,
man.
it worked really good. I mean, even on Can't You See, I ended up throwing that on a loop and playing a solo over it, so that was kind of neat.
Good too. You did that one good.
Yeah, I you know, that's another thing we were talking earlier, like, when you're the only one up there playing, if you're playing the only one playing leads, you can't hide, you know, especially like with me where I'm playing the backup, looping it, and then playing leads over top. There's nobody else on stage with me. Like, and I wasn't on a stage, I was just in the corner of a room, but still it was just like, oh no, there's nowhere to hide, like physically or sonically or anywhere. Like, I can't hide at all.
Yep.
But it also comes down to, like we've said many times before, some people can't play music and don't know it any more than the man in the moon. And I was just tuning stuff up, and the guy at the bar there was like, dude, this sounds so good. And I'm like, I'm just tuning the guitar. Like, he's like, oh, it sounds great. And I'm like, okay. You know, so that kind of put me at a little bit of at ease. And I always seem to forget that not everybody plays music. And I go places, and I'm always so, like, almost embarrassed to play in front of people. I don't know what the deal is, but...
Dude, same. It's like you get up there, and especially if there's a good amount of people, you're like, oh man, you know, like I'm not good enough to play in front of this many people.
Yeah.
But like at the end of the day, I don't know why I think that, because I know I am good enough.
Yeah.
Like to do it. I'm a decent singer too. Like I love to sing.
Uh-huh.
So like that's the most embarrassing part for me, is like I get up there to sing, and I've been told by a lot of people, like, man, you're like a really good singer type of deal. I'm like, yeah, whatever.
Uh-huh.
You know, like, yeah, thanks, but like, I don't think so type of deal. But like, you get up there and you do it, and it's almost like, man, like, why am I, like, I don't even think this sounds good right now, but everybody else is enjoying it, so why the hell am I not? Like,
yeah, and you know, it comes down to the fact you may not think that you're like the best singer in the world, but at the same time, like, who else is out there singing? What are the other options at this given moment? Like, if you weren't singing, somebody else in the room would have to sing, and who else is better than you at singing? Probably nobody. You know, nobody else had the guts to go up there and do it anyways.
Yeah, for sure.
You
like,
know,
that's one thing jamming with the dudes back home is, like, one day, I mentioned this on our last podcast I did with you. One day, I'm just sitting there jamming with them, playing guitar, and they're like, well, you know, you want to sing anything? I said, no. Well, why don't you try this one? You know, do you know the lyrics to this song? I said, well, yeah. Well, go ahead. And I start singing. They're like, man, I think you're our new singer. Like, okay.
Okay. That's like a humbling thing, though. Singing is not as... I've always been amused by singing. Fun story for everybody. I sang in school until 8th grade when I was asked to no longer sing in school in the chorus. Believe it or not, like... I was not good. I was so not good that they asked me to just, like, not come back. Like, that's how not good I was. So, and, like, that stuck with me my whole entire life until I finally got older and was like, oh, you don't have to, like, I don't know. I want to say you don't have to be good, but, like, blues doesn't require anybody to be, like, super singer number one. You know?
It's just like if you can put your soul into it. I always felt if you can put your soul into it, it's going to sound good.
Yeah, dude.
You know, like... That's just what it is. I've heard people sing that like aren't the greatest of singers, but once they put their heart into it and their fucking soul, F-bomb there, but like when they do that, man, they like it sounds great. And I'm like, whoa, you know, like, because I was hanging out with a couple people jamming one time, and there's this gal that was singing, and she was doing okay-ish, and I was like, oh, okay, and then she sings this song that obviously has some meaning to her.
Yep.
And, like, just rips it up. And I was like, dude, I walked up and I was like, I just told her, I said, you know what you got to do? She's like, what? I said, you got to do exactly that every damn time.
Yeah.
And you're going to be amazing.
Yeah.
Because that sounded great. And you went up there and ripped that song up because it means something to you.
Uh-huh.
It means something to you. And if you just find a way to make every song that you sing mean something to you in that way,
yeah,
then it's going to sound great.
Case in point, for my example for that exactly would be, I like to play Ted Nugent songs, and I can't sing 100% like either Ted or who was the other guy that
St. Holmes.
Yeah, I can't.
And the other guy,
yeah,
Charlie.
was it Derek St. Holmes?
Yeah,
yeah. So I can't sing like them. Ted can kind of like pull it off if you watch or listen to his live albums. He does a good enough job at like covering the Derek St. Holmes stuff. But at the same time, like I wanted to do Stormtroopin', which I felt was very fitting for the time. Last year at the Rockin' Picnic in Humboldt, I played Stormtroopin', and like I said, I can't sing those notes as perfectly as they can and whatever, but I put my like heart and soul into it and sang it the best I could. It was a song that was very important to me. I felt like it had a lot of connections to what was going on in today, where it's a bunch of people that are always looking over your shoulder, telling you what to do. They're judging you and correcting you on all these things, and you just got to get ready because those stormtroopers are coming. Whether or not it's actual stormtroopers or whether or not it's the man or whether or not it's social media people coming after you or whatever it is. Like, I was just like, man, I'm feeling this. And I got done singing that. And some guy after the show was just like, dude, you have a business card for your band. And I just threw together like a one-off band with like Jeff Blummel, Dan Blair, and Nick Earhart. And I was like, no, we just played this one show just to fill up the show because they had an issue with booking. So we were like, yeah, we'll play this show, no problem. And so we threw a few songs together and played it. But like the guy was just like, dude, you nailed Stormtroopin'. Like, I've never heard anybody cover a Ted Nugent song. It's so cool.
For sure. That's one thing too, as I mentioned to you. When you posted that on Facebook.
Yep.
And I was just like, dude, I've never heard anybody cover this damn song.
Yeah.
Like, I hit you up right away. I think I commented on it, and I just like Stormtroopin' in all caps.
Yep.
Like, yeah, like, dude, this is kick ass. Like,
yep.
no way, never. Like, always been a song I've liked to play, and like. So I sit there and think about it, and I'm like, dude, like, that was awesome. And that's really what kind of hit it off between me and you, is when I said that, and you're like, oh, hell yeah, dude. Like, I love playing that stuff.
Yeah, this guy knows Stormtroopin'. Yeah. Fuck yeah. Like, this is cool. Oh, God. So we finally made it back to Humboldt. I guess we got well over an hour recorded here. There's only about 15 minutes on the recorder. We did cover most of the stuff I wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk about Kevin B.F. Burt for sure. That was something that was in the back of my mind, like, ever since I saw that snap. I even was just like, screenshot, like,
yep.
This is cool. I got to save this because someone's got to save this. This is a badass picture. And
well, that was cool, too, because when I asked him, I was like, hey, man, like, can I take a selfie with you real quick? And he's just like, of course, man, get that sweet Epiphone in a picture with me, man. And I'm just like, yeah, dude, hell yeah. And,
hats off to Kevin B.F. Burt. He's like, we've talked so many times, he's such a nice guy. He looks so happy in that picture.
Oh, for sure,
He just, I don't know too many people that are like, I wouldn't say he's like an established musician, but I don't know anybody that's that established that would be willing to take the time to just be like, all right, dude, I'm going to teach you a couple licks here, and we're going to apply them to the song, and you're going to jam with me.
Yeah.
Like, that's the coolest thing in the world.
Yeah, it literally took a couple seconds. Like, that's why I mentioned it before. Like, when I got done playing with him, I walked up to my buddies that came there with me, and they're like, dude, what did he teach you?
Yeah.
Like, because I saw you guys talking up there about something, and you guys were kind of playing a little bit before you guys actually cranked it up and started playing, and I'm like, dude, I'll tell you guys when we get back and we're jamming at home.
Yeah.
I'll show you.
That's so cool. But yeah, I mean, that also goes to show you that, like, I'm sure he didn't show you anything mind-blowing. It was just like, dude, this is so simple. Like, how did I, A, not know this, B, not think of this? And, like, I run into that so many times with the guitar where I learn something, I'm like, oh, this isn't that hard. And I thought, like, what these people were doing was just, like, ludicrous.
It's so intricate. And, like, well, that's something he said, too. He was just like, man, you don't have to think about playing guitar too hard. It's a simple thing if you want it to be a simple thing.
Yeah, that's true.
And
that's true.
Yeah, and there's so much truth behind that, man. Like,
God, yeah. So we made the Glen Buxton trip. We'll have pictures online for sure. Maybe even Vinny's got some on his Snapchat right now. I don't know.
Not yet. Soon.
But yeah, so huge props for going with me on a little road trip to Clarion today to see Glen Buxton's grave. I'm gonna look up exactly where it's at just so I can let everybody know in case you guys want to go check it out. I think it's in the Evergreen Cemetery, I believe is what it was called. Evergreen Cemetery in Clarion. It'd be on the east end of Clarion. It's I don't know the lot number, but it would be the farther east lot of the two. And I found a website that had explained where it was at, and it's near the evergreen trees past the caretaker's garage. So
yeah, it's like the very south end.
Yes. So if you see the caretaker's garage, just go to the south end and just walk down the aisle, and you'll see it there. It's a great thing to have around. I'd love to. There were gifts on it. There was like little trinkets and rocks and pennies and stuff. I left a guitar pick out there. I would love to have as many people from the area go out there and just adorn that grave the way that so many rock stars' graves have been adorned. It would be a great thing to see, to support in the area, especially just to do for people that don't know we're out there doing it, people that don't know that you're listening to this and I went out and saw it. Like, it'd be so cool for somebody just to go out there and drop a drumstick out there, or throw your own guitar pick, or
yeah, for sure, man. That's what I think is cool. You got your own like Unity Peter Stockdale guitar pick that you leave there. That's awesome, man.
Yeah, I had to leave him something to pluck on while I wasn't there. So
yeah, for sure, man.
So now he can pluck some riffs while I'm not around. Oh, man. So thanks again for joining me on this podcast, man. It's always great to sit down and talk with you.
Oh, for sure, man. I love it.
Yeah, hopefully we'll get to another show sometime, because, man, like you and I have been killing it going to a lot of shows lately, whether it be we went to that art show in Des Moines, Two Broke for the Arts Festival Fest. We went to go see Jay Clyde Band, and we've seen Brutal Republic, like all in the last month, so we're doing pretty good, man.
Yeah, and it's been super fun. That show in Des Moines, dude, I'm not too big into like the super hardcore thrash stuff.
Yep.
But those guys, every band there killed it.
Yeah, dude.
I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I'm obviously partial to Thor Hammer because it's more like Iron Maiden-y kind of new wave of British heavy metal kind of stuff. But like, yeah, those like I don't want to call like speed thrash or whatever you want to call the other bands. Dude, it was good. I love seeing them play live. It's another one of those things you were talking, you could just see the energy coming out of those people, and they like doing what they're doing.
No, for sure.
Even if I can't understand what the vocalist is saying.
Well, and it was, yeah, right.
Yeah.
And it was so hot in there too. Like, it was hot out.
Man.
And the day before, the one dudes were saying they played in Chicago, and their drummer like passed out.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, dude.
Damn.
That's insanity. So, all the traveling bands out there, thanks for doing what you're doing. Really appreciate that. Thanks for joining me on the podcast, Vinny.
For sure, man. Anytime.
That's my good buddy Vince. Oh, man. If you want to know about how Vince and I met up, you can kind of check out the older episode that we did together. It was episode number 24. You can kind of get our backstory and, like I said, how we met up. We've been going to a lot of shows lately and stuff and hanging out. It's a pretty fun guy. So check out, I guess he doesn't have a band, but I'll post his Snapchat or something down below, his Facebook, anything, so you can get in contact with him, because he likes playing guitar, and he posts a lot of guitar videos on his Snapchat, and that's pretty cool. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, it takes a lot of guts to go out there and actually, put yourself out there like that. So props, Vince, for doing that. I also want to say thanks to Vince for going with me to Clarion to check out Glen Buxton's grave. It was a hella good time. It was kind of weird because I'm not super like affected by that stuff, and I'm not super social about like the religion aspect of it being spiritual and a lot. I mean, like, I am internally, but as far as showing it outwardly and super emotionally, I'm not like a very somber person around stuff like that. I'm just kind of take it as it is. But it was weird. It was weird to stand there and just, it was like I felt like I should be doing something, or I should be. I don't know, like it was awe-inspiring in certain aspects. It was just kind of weird because I left a pick on the grave site. I thought that was pretty nice. I can let him play some guitar if I'm not around or whatever. Just get that spirit of music back over there. It was just crazy. Like, the drive home was very self-reflective. I honestly don't remember recording most of the ride home. I was just blabbing while I was thinking about how cool it was that I went and saw Glen Buxton's grave, and how cool it was that he lived in Clarion for a while. And I want to put out kind of like an all points bulletin. I know there's got to be somebody out there that's listening that had some interaction with Glen, and maybe even played guitar with him or was in his bands and stuff, I would love to get a hold of some of those people and talk to them and hear what they had to say. People that went to jam nights with him or just hung out with him or anything. If anybody knows anything, hit us up at Audible Farm. Go to www.audiblefarm.com. You can just fill out that form there and say, hey, hit me up. I got some stories, and I would love to come sit and hang out with you and hear some Glen Buxton stories. That would be really, really cool. While you're at www.audiblefarm.com, you can check out all the links to all the social media I have there, as well you can where you can listen to this podcast. If you're already listening to it, you probably already found where you can listen to it. But if you just clicked a random link and you're listening to this and you're like, maybe I have Stitcher or something. Well, guess what I do? So check it out. There's links down below. There's also links everywhere at www.audiblefarm.com. to check out all the goodies there, social media and beyond. So I want to say thanks to Iowa Podcast Network for setting that up for us. Huge hats off to Iowa Podcast Network. Thank you. What else do we got to talk about? Well, there's a Helion Prime show coming up in exactly 1 week. Exactly 1 week from today. It is going to be August 8th. It is in at Spicoli's in Waterloo, Cedar Falls. There's a Facebook event page for it. Unity is playing that show. We are opening up for Nova Rain and Helion Prime. It is going to be amazing. I've interviewed everybody from Unity on my podcast. So if you guys want to check that out, just kind of peel back through there. Clint, Marco, Sean, and Alonzo are the guys that I've interviewed. So check that out. Make sure you contact those guys if you want to say hi to them or whatever. I left their social medias and their descriptions down below. It's going to be a hell of a show, so make sure you check out that show. I know it's on a Thursday night and everybody's got work and a life and a job and everything else, but it's going to be a hell of a show. I can't even believe I get to play shows like this. It's so cool. So hats off to all the Unity guys for letting me crash the party on the Unity gang there and sticking with me over the years, because I friggin' love playing guitar with those guys. It's a lot of notes, it's a lot of crazy times, everything's really tight, and I like it. I like it a lot. So shout out to that. Make sure you check out that show on August 8th. Go to the Unity Facebook page for more information on that. I just got to say thanks once again to Vince for joining me on this podcast. I had a hell of a fun time hanging out with him. I also got to say thanks to Couchtown Coffee for doing all the things they've done for us as a podcast, as far as giving me the fuel to do what I need to do, as far as getting me the beans, that black gold. I'm talking about coffee, Couchtown Coffee specifically. I French press that stuff and drink it by the gallons. No, not quite, but it's pretty obscene. I like coffee a lot, and Couchtown Coffee fuels me on the daily. And because you're listening to this podcast, you can go to www.couchtowncoffee.com. You can enter the promo code SCHOOLSOUT. Schools Out is the promo code, and it will save you 20% on your entire order. 20%. That is insanity. That's unheard of for small businesses. And so hats off to Couchtown Coffee for being that awesome. You are going to get the freshest coffee you have ever had. I guarantee it. So go to www.couchtowncoffee.com. Check it out. I'm out of here for another week. I've got a great episode coming up next week. I'm working on one with the guy that does the graphic design for the podcast, and we're just polishing up the loose ends on that podcast. So stay tuned for that one. That one's going to be a really fun one, I promise. So we'll see you guys next week. Peace.